Hello there. Today we're going to look at our buyer procedure checklist. We're going to talk about all the steps of the buyer procedure from start to finish, from the time you make contact with the buyer all the way through to closing. And I'll show you a few things that where you can get this from, etc. So first, you're going to need this buyer procedure checklist. We've made this for you to make this really easy. It's going to be available to you at all times inside of the PC Facebook group. So you'll navigate to your PC Facebook group by searching here, go down, click into the Facebook group, and come over to where it says Files right here. Under Files, you'll see the buyer procedure checklist. You'll click on that. You'll click that you want to download it, and then it will live in your computer like it does mine. So here's my little download up here in the corner, and now it lives in my computer and I can pull it up anytime. So on this checklist, it's step by step, guys. We're trying to make this as easy as possible. Download the checklist, follow it step by step. The first is our pre-showing. So we're going to make contact with our buyer via phone, typically, is what I do. If you have a different relationship and you want to make contact with them in person, you're welcome to do that. But I typically will call them or text them by phone to set up a consultation. If you have met a buyer somewhere else and you're setting up the consultation there, that is that step. So I'm calling them with a pre-listing or pre-buyer consultation checklist just to see kind of where they are. And my goal for that call or text is to set up a meeting. I want to set up a meeting in a professional atmosphere, such as our meeting room here. And I want to make sure I come dressed to impress and have my buyer consultation. So I make contact with them via phone. I go through a quick little checklist of things I'd like to know, like when they're planning to move, how many people are going to be moving with them, etc. If they know anything about the area, where they'll be working. Really brief, because my main consultation is going to be in person. So then I'm going to set up the consultation. Okay, great. I'd love to meet with you. I have time Tuesday or Thursday at 1 or 4 o'clock. What works better for you? I've set that up. Now, we're going to have the consultation. There are a few things that I do to make this a little bit more professional. First, I'm going to let Jeanette at the front desk know that I have someone coming in. I'm going to say, hey, Jeanette, the Smiths are going to be here at 4 o'clock. We're going to be meeting in the conference room that's in the cafe. Can you please just let me know when they arrive? So Jeanette will say, hey, are you the Smiths? And then I say, and then she comes and gets me from my office or wherever I am. I meet them in the lobby. I want to make sure that we get all that icky, like get to know each other in that first few seconds out of the way in the lobby. So, hey, how are you guys? How was the drive? It's so good to meet you in person, or it's so good to see you again. Come with me. We're going to go back to the conference room. On the way to the conference room, I'm asking them if they'd like any beverages, etc. There are Coke machines back there if you want to buy your client a beverage, or we have waters in the fridge as well. So now we're in the conference room. I'm going to present my buyer presentation. Well, where do I get a buyer presentation? You make a buyer presentation. So a buyer presentation just tells everybody how cool you are. So I put it inside of a folder. It looks like this. I have my buyer presentation on this side. I have the documents that we'll be signing together on this side, or at least reviewing. It's a nice KW branded folder. You're welcome to make these yourself if you would like to have your own kind of personal stamp on that, but I'm making those. You can also find that in our KW Facebook or in our PC Facebook group. So if you go under Files, there's a customizable buyer presentation that you guys can use. You can also go on Etsy to find customizable buyer presentations. Then you stick them into Canva. You can do whatever you like with them. So that's where I get my buyer presentation is I make it. They're also available in Command. They have templates for them in Command. Inside of I'm going to have the buyer presentation. I'm going to have the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. I'm going to have the affiliated business disclosure, wire fraud, buyer's wants and needs questionnaire. So this one down here is the important one for your meeting. So you want to know what they want and what they need and how you can help them facilitate that. So you're going to go through that very, very carefully, and then you're going to make sure that you're asking probing questions. Why is it important to you to have 4 bedrooms? Why is it important to you to live near a golf course, etc.? Then our next one is to search for properties. in Flex using their wants and needs. So I'm going to use that list that they gave me now to search. I'm going to have the buyer, I'm going to send them the property. So I went into Flex. I said they wanted a 4-bedroom, Columbia County, at least or under 300,000. I maybe have 4 or 5 properties that show up. I'm going to send them the properties after I've looked through the photos. So I'm going to look through the photos for them. That's my job. That's what they're paying me for. So I'm looking through the photos. I'm saying, nope, they said they wanted modern. This one's out. Or they said they wanted turnkey. This one needs a lot of work. It's out. Until I narrow it down to about 3 properties, 3 or 4 typically. Then I'm going to send them those properties via text. And I'm going to ask them, please rate and rank these properties. I want you to rank them from best to worst, and then rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 for each property. Once they've got them rated, that's how I set up my showings. So I want to show the buyer the property they like the best, and then move down from there. Then once they've chosen the 3, we're going to review the seller's disclosures. So I'm going to send them the seller's disclosures. I get those from Flex under documents on Flex. So I go to the listing, go to documents on Flex. The seller's disclosure will be there. I send that to them to read over, or I give them the highlights. Hey, this house is brand new, or hey, this house is original, but they changed the roof out, or this house is original, but the AC was new last year and they just put in new flooring. I'm giving them the highlights, or I'm sending them the document, whatever is easier for you. Then I'm going to contact the listing agent. I want to know if she's got a pre-showing compensation agreement. If not, I want at least in text to know what my compensation is, because remember, my buyer will have to pay that if they're not compensating. So whatever that discrepancy is between what the seller's agent is paying and what my buyer has agreed to pay me is what they'll need to know about. Then I'm going to set up the showings, and then I'm going to show the properties from best to worst. Ninja Selling gives a very good overview of how to ask soft closing questions during your showing and how to make people feel comfortable during your showings. I suggest you guys read that section. Then we're into writing the offer. We're going to negotiate our terms with the buyer. Here are the terms you need to negotiate. Put these in your phone. Put them on a checklist right next to them. Okay, price, check. Seller's closing concessions, write it out to where when you get home, you can just plug it into the template that you've made in our class, and you can move forward pretty quickly. My first offer took me about 3 hours to write. Now I can get them knocked out in about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the documents that are needed for it. So more practice, you get a lot quicker at these, but your first one will take you a few hours. Then you're going to access command and start the transaction. And then there is a command checklist packet that Ari gives you in her class. We also have a copy for you on our Facebook group. Access the DocuSign forms you'll need. Same thing. We have a packet for you on the group. You're going to fill out all the documents. Then you're going to send them to your coach to review. Do not skip this step. There's a reason you're in PC. You have a whole team working with you. So you want to make sure you're sending those documents to us so we can review them. We're going to be reviewing them for compliance issues, but we're also going to be reviewing them to see if there's something we can do to strengthen your buyer's offer. So let us help you, guide you on your first few transactions by sending us the documents to review. Once reviewed, you'll send to your buyer for signature. Once signed, send to the seller's agent. Then once it's signed by everyone, you on the buyer's side need to make sure that you send the bound copy to the attorney, the lender, and a final copy to the buyer. So just make sure you send those out. I have heard horror stories where the lender didn't get the documents for 2 weeks and now they're closing late. Lenders need 30 days to do their job in most cases. And then once you're under contract, now you're under contract, everybody's got the documents, the attorney's got them, everybody's got them. We're going to upload our documents into Command for compliance. And again, you'll find those steps in the Command class that Ari does or in the checklist that is provided here. Once we're under contract, you need to start focusing on the next steps. Schedule your home inspection. They get to choose the inspector. They will probably ask for some advice. Have some inspectors on deck that you feel comfortable and confident in working. Give them those options. Let them choose. Due diligence starts the day after the contract is bound. So if I bind today and my due diligence is 7 days, it starts tomorrow. And I would count 7 calendar days starting tomorrow. not business days, calendar days. Make sure you monitor that pretty closely so you don't miss that and risk the buyer's earnest money. Then once you get the inspection report back, you're going to use the report to write your repairs request, also known as the amendment to address concerns. Make sure it's on that document. You're not just going to send the list agent a message that says, hey, we want this fixed. It goes on an amendment to address concerns. Send that to your coach to check as well. So make sure that we're kind of following you through the whole process. So let us look at that, make sure that you're getting some guidance on that. Then once that is done, you'll send it to the list agent. Remember, it has to be signed and bound before the end of due diligence. So just sending it to the list agent is not enough. They need to sign it or have their buyer sign it or seller sign it. Otherwise, once you pass that due diligence date, the property is as is if you have not negotiated this in full. Then the lender will step in. They're going to order the appraisal. I typically will text them the day after the due diligence ends or the day of due diligence and say, hey, due diligence ends today. We've negotiated everything. Please order the appraisal. Then the seller will make all repairs. That's the seller's responsibility, required by the amendment to address your concerns, but also the appraiser. And then after the appraisal sometime, we just need to make sure that the termite is getting ordered if that was our responsibility. Typically, we're going to ask the seller to do that, but occasionally it's something that you as a buyer's agent may need to order or at least monitor and make sure it was done and you're asking for the report. And then the final thing you need to do is attend closing. I highly recommend attending closing. You are building relationships here, not only with your buyers, but also the other agent and the closing attorney. So I highly recommend attending closing. It's the last step. It's the home run. They are very nervous at this point. They're sitting down to make, a $500,000 transaction in some cases, and they need you there to feel like they are comfortable in moving forward. So make sure that you're there for that closing, if at all possible. If I can't attend my closing, I make sure someone can. So I'll get another agent to attend for me and bring whatever gift I have for them. And then bring your documents back to the office. The office will upload your closing disclosure your closing disclosure or your ALTA or whatever they're calling it, the CD, and then they will pay you via bank draft or in a check, whatever you've chosen, if you did not do a DA prior to closing. And then they will upload those into your closed folder in Command. You don't have to do that. They will do it. And that is the buyer procedure checklist.